Among all fictional characters, the Joker is the only one that doesn't have a somewhat bad on-screen adaptation.
Need to talk about that.
He seems like the simplest character you can put on screen once you understand the surface of his psyche. A crazy guy in clown makeup and a silly suit who kills people for show. A psychopath. This statement is the easiest way to diagnose the Joker's mind. But calling him simple is the biggest flaw any director could make in writing him. Because simple is the furthest word to describe the Joker, especially when you understand everything he stands for. And that statement falls apart once you dissect it. First, he is not crazy. The things he does are crazy, no question about that. But he is not a crazy person. A fictional report was made on the Joker during his time in Arkham Asylum. Multiple doctors tried to understand why he does what he does, and this was found in The Joker Psychology, edited by Travis Langley. Those reports show that the Joker displays no signs of psychosis, neurosis, or chronic brain syndrome. In short, there is nothing mentally wrong with him. He is perfectly sane and functional. Second, that clown face isn't a mask or makeup, it's an extension of himself. That smile is always on his face, whether he's making a harmless joke or a gruesome one. It's the embodiment of his belief that life is just one big joke. In many comic continuities and several adaptations, he fell into a vat of chemicals at Ace Chemicals that permanently bleached his skin and turned his hair green, making the clown visage literally part of who he is. Third, I'm pretty sure all his suits are custom made. Nothing silly about that. And lastly, he doesn't kill people for show. He does it for amusement. His amusement. Because more often than not, he is the only one laughing. It's remarkable how sometimes he gets bored of plainly killing. There are several stories, especially Going Sane and Emperor Joker, where he effectively reaches that conclusion, because killing alone no longer provides the excitement he's actually seeking. To him, murder is often just the punchline. If killing someone immediately would end the game, he'll often avoid it, because the chaos is more entertaining than the corpse. So, the Joker becomes more complex the more you try to understand or categorize him, which is what I will try to do here. Understand and categorize his mind, using his live-action adaptations as examples for each category. Because he can be insanely logical at times.
If it was me dying on the sidewalk, you'd walk right over me.
And other times he does the most batshit crazy, out-of-pocket,
Attractive, like kidnapping Gordon and eating sushi off his lumpy, naked body.
completely heinous things. This is the number one reason the Joker is as scary as he is. His reasoning operates above simple logic, and sometimes it even seems morally correct in a strange, twisted way. In the comics, when someone assumed he'd side with the Nazis, he responded,
I'm American. I fucking hate Nazis. I'm a homicidal maniac, not a traitorous bigot.
He can be highly logical while operating from irrational or distorted premises. He's not illogical, in the sense of randomly doing things. Most versions of the Joker have a coherent internal logic. The problem is that the values and assumptions that logic is built on are deeply warped. For example, his reasoning might go, it takes one bad day to push a person into insanity. To prove that point, he'll subject someone to the most inhumane torture imaginable, all within a single day. If that person breaks, is he right? The majority of his stories follow that logic. He believes life is meaningless, and morality is just a social performance. If that's true, then exposing people to chaos is more honest than letting them believe in order. Within that worldview, many of his actions make sense. They're horrific, but they're internally consistent. This is why he's so often able to outsmart detectives, manipulate people, and plan incredibly complex schemes. His intelligence isn't impaired. His moral framework is. Take Jack Nicholson's Joker. Before the chemicals, before the grin, he was Jack Napier, a man with a plan, a temper, and a very personal list of people who wronged him. Every kill after that fall into the vat still follows that same list. He poisons beauty products because vanity made him who he is. He defaces priceless art because he thinks his own art is superior. This isn't chaos. This is grievance with a paintbrush, a man executing revenge with the same precision a general executes a war plan. And he always makes sure there's an audience watching. If you saw a man handing out cash to the public for their well-being, you probably wouldn't call him problematic. So why does that change the moment he's wearing clown makeup? It's also important to separate mental illness from being crazy. Real mental illnesses don't automatically make someone illogical, violent, or criminal. The Joker is a fictional exaggeration. Different writers have portrayed him as psychotic, narcissistic, antisocial, or something almost impossible to diagnose. In fact, many psychologists argue that assigning him a single real-world diagnosis doesn't work, because his personality shifts depending on the story. One famous interpretation comes from Grant Morrison, who described the Joker as having supersanity, not a real psychiatric condition, but the idea that his mind constantly reinvents itself to adapt to whatever's happening around him. It's a literary concept, not a clinical one. The idea that he exists a step above plain sanity, in a place you can only reach by stepping outside of what it means to be human. There's a philosopher who arrived at a strikingly similar idea, just from the opposite direction. Absurdism is one of the most interesting lenses through which to view the Joker, because he recognizes the exact same problem absurdist philosophers do. He just arrives at a radically different conclusion. The philosophy is most closely associated with Albert Camus. Camus began with a simple observation. Human beings desperately want the universe to make sense, but the universe provides no inherent meaning. That clash, the human search for meaning against an indifferent universe, is what Camus called the absurd. The question then becomes, what do you do with that realization? Camus considered three broad responses. Pretend there's an ultimate meaning anyway, what he called philosophical suicide. Give up on life entirely, literal suicide. Or accept the absurd and keep living regardless, creating meaning through your own actions. Camus argued for the third option. His famous image is the myth of Sisyphus, a man eternally pushing a boulder uphill only to watch it roll back down. He concludes that Sisyphus can still find freedom by embracing his condition rather than denying it. Now compare that to the Joker.
Oh, you devil.
He seems to agree with Camus' diagnosis. Life is chaotic. There's no cosmic justice. Society's rules are fragile, and people invent stories just to feel safe. Where he departs is in his response. Instead of saying, let's create meaning despite the absurd, the Joker says, if meaning is invented, then I can destroy it. He doesn't merely accept the absurd, he tries to force everyone else to experience it in the most traumatic way possible. That's why so many Joker stories are structured like experiments. He isn't robbing a bank to get rich. He's trying to expose what he sees as the illusion of civilization. In The Killing Joke, his goal isn't simply to hurt Commissioner Gordon, it's to prove that one catastrophic day can strip away anyone's morality and sanity. He's attempting to prove a philosophical claim through violence. This is where the Joker splits from an actual absurdist philosopher. Camus believed acknowledging life's lack of inherent meaning should lead to freedom, compassion, and rebellion against despair. The Joker believes it justifies cruelty. But that's only half the story, because right next to this calculated version, there's a Joker who doesn't calculate anything at all, a Joker who exists entirely because Batman does. When it comes to the Joker as a Gotham villain, it would be absurd to talk about him without talking about Batman. There's an interesting irony here. Despite claiming that nothing matters, the Joker behaves as though Batman matters immensely. In many stories, Batman becomes the one thing that gives the Joker purpose. His obsession suggests that, even as he insists life is meaningless, he's created a meaning of his own. In that sense, the Joker unintentionally contradicts his own philosophy. He can't live without attaching significance to something. Batman becomes the boulder he keeps pushing, while Camus' Sisyphus finds fulfillment in the struggle itself. One of the biggest conceptions about Batman and the Joker is reducing their relationship to they're the same, or Batman created the Joker. Most of the best stories don't actually argue that. Instead, they explore something more interesting. The Joker believes Batman completes him, while Batman rejects that idea entirely. The Killing Joke lays this out clearly. The Joker proposes that he and Batman are essentially the same, two men shaped by one bad day. He wants Batman to admit they're mirrors of each other. Batman refuses. His response, in effect,
I don't know what it was that bent your life out of shape, but maybe I've been there too. Maybe we could work together. I could rehabilitate you. You don't need to be alone.
The story isn't saying they're the same. It's about the Joker desperately wanting them to be. In another story, Going Sane, the Joker kills Batman and enjoys the full thrill of winning, only to be faced with one question. Who is the Joker without Batman? He becomes almost ordinary. He builds a life, forms a relationship, and appears content. That's the crucial point. The Joker behaves as though Batman is his reason for existing. Batman does not behave as though the Joker is his. A live-action adaptation that pushes this obsession to a genuinely sickening level is, surprisingly, the CW series Gotham. The show gives us two different versions of the Joker, though neither is allowed to actually use that name. Brothers Jerome and Jeremiah Valeska portraying wildly different philosophies. For this tier, the one worth focusing on is Jeremiah. He develops a strange, almost brotherly fixation on Bruce Wayne, where everything monstrous he does is really an attempt to forge a closer connection with him. The clearest example, he creates fake clones of Bruce's parents and stages their deaths, just so he and Bruce can experience that trauma together.
I want to be the star of the show!
Psychologically, this obsession resembles what's sometimes called an identity-dependent fixation. It's not a formal diagnosis, but it describes a pattern where someone's entire sense of self becomes organized around another person. Instead of asking, "Who am I?" the question becomes, "Who am I in relation to them?" Humans naturally seek acknowledgement from others. In healthy relationships, that recognition comes from friends, family, colleagues, communities. Batman has all of that. He has allies, a mission, a family, a purpose that extends far beyond any one villain. If the Joker disappeared forever, Batman would keep being Batman. The Joker has stripped away nearly all of those other connections. Batman becomes the one person whose attention actually matters to him. This is where the idea of dialectics becomes genuinely useful. Not because it proves Batman and the Joker are the same, but because it explains how opposites can define each other. A dialectic is the idea that identity often emerges through conflict between opposing forces. Two ideas constantly pushing against one another, each becoming sharper because of that friction. Batman and the Joker fit this structure well. Batman isn't just a hero, he becomes the embodiment of order because the Joker embodies chaos. The Joker isn't just a criminal, he becomes chaos personified because Batman represents unwavering order. But a balanced dialectic means both sides depend on each other equally. And that's not what's happening here. The Joker has countless accomplices and victims, but he keeps circling back to one man. Batman is the axis his entire worldview revolves around. Some would call this an imbalanced dialectic. The Joker needs Batman to become as necessary to Batman as Batman is to him. But that need only runs one direction. Remove Batman from the equation, and the Joker loses his audience, his rival, and in some interpretations, his entire sense of purpose. That imbalance shows up everywhere once you look for it. Batman is the only person who consistently engages with him instead of simply fearing him or wanting him dead. Batman refuses to kill him, which, to the Joker, makes their relationship ongoing instead of final. Batman is incorruptible, which makes breaking him the Joker's single greatest ambition. And Batman validates the Joker's identity. If Batman treats him as his greatest foe, the Joker feels like he matters. This is why the rivalry endures. It was never just hero versus villain. It's two competing visions of how to live, with one of them desperately trying to force the other to validate his worldview. And that's what separates Tier 2 from Tier 1 entirely. Tier 1's Joker chooses chaos because he believes something about the world, independent of anyone watching. Tier 2's Joker doesn't need a philosophy. He needs a mirror, and Batman is the only one who ever looks back. But what if neither of these is true? What if this was never about Batman or about anyone else at all? What if the chaos didn't begin when Batman showed up, but was already running long before he ever put on the cape?
All it takes is one bad day. That's how far the world is from where I am. Just one bad day.
It's tempting to tie the Joker to some kind of anchor. It helps to understand his motivation, to give him ideals. But this is the Joker. His motivations aren't supposed to make sense, because the moment you delve into the gruesome crimes he did, you start to lose sight of any tidy classification. His chaos is self-originating. It doesn't need a cause, a justification, or even an audience. Normally, we explain people through premises. Batman fights crime because of his parents' murder. Two-Face is obsessed with chance because of his trauma. Mr. Freeze commits crimes because he wants to save Nora. Each of them has a because. The Joker's actions don't answer the question, why? Because why assumes there's a reason waiting to be found. Here, there isn't one. In a sense, he stops being a character with a philosophy and starts resembling what philosophers sometimes call a brute fact. Something that simply is, with no deeper explanation underneath it. That makes him almost impossible to defeat intellectually. There's no hidden premise for Batman to expose or dismantle. Batman can stop his actions, but he can never solve him, because there's no puzzle underneath, only the unsettling possibility that some things exist without a satisfying reason at all.
If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice.
So if there's no reason to find, where does someone like this even come from? Joker, 2019, gives us two different answers, depending on how closely you're willing to look. The first reading is the one most people walk away with, the surface reading. Arthur is neglected, bullied, mentally ill, and betrayed. He's abandoned by every social system meant to help him. Eventually, he becomes the Joker. It's a clean explanation. The Joker as the inevitable result of systemic failure. The second reading goes deeper. This is the Joker as an identity Arthur creates, not simply becomes. Arthur and the Joker don't just differ in clothing or confidence. They differ in how they inhabit the world. Arthur makes himself physically small, avoids eye contact, apologizes constantly, waits for permission to exist. The Joker takes up space. He walks slowly and deliberately, holds eye contact, performs for everyone around him. Those aren't just changes in mood, they're changes in identity. It's almost as if Arthur dies psychologically, and the Joker becomes the personality that steps into the vacuum he leaves behind. In my video on Batman, I made a similar point. This isn't a literal death. It's what philosophers and psychologists sometimes call a narrative death, or identity death, where the old self stops being the center of a person's existence. The same applies to Bruce Wayne. The child dies in Crime Alley, and Batman becomes the organizing principle for everything that follows. Arthur's life, before the collapse, is built around trying to become acceptable, a good son, a working comedian, someone kind enough that people won't reject him. By the end of the film, every one of those identities has failed. When he finally appears on Murray's show, he's no longer trying to fit into society. He's introducing himself.
Introduce me as Joker.
It's a declaration that Arthur Fleck no longer exists as the identity that was trying to survive in that world. This is what connects the two readings instead of contradicting each other. The collapse has a cause, a broken system, a broken city, a life spent being unseen. But what steps into that vacuum afterward doesn't. Once Arthur is gone, the Joker who remains isn't reacting to anything anymore. He's simply there, the brute fact left standing once the explainable part of him has already died. And the film is careful to show you it wasn't Gotham that broke him. Gotham was already broken first. It opens with him being beaten by kids in the street. A social worker admits the city cut her program entirely, that no one is coming to replace her, that no one was really listening in the first place. Even his medication, his one tether to stability, gets pulled away by a system that stopped caring long before he did. Arthur isn't corrupting a healthy world. He's the first person honest enough to stop pretending the world was ever healthy to begin with. His transformation isn't him becoming something new. It's him finally stopping the performance of being okay. The infamous line lands harder because of this.
I used to think that my life was a tragedy. But now I realize it's a fucking comedy.
Finally dropping the act of pretending otherwise. What's fascinating is that Batman and the Joker undergo almost the exact same structural transformation. A death of the old self, and a new identity that rises to fill the space it leaves behind. One just chooses order, the other chooses the absence of any reason at all. So now we have three completely different Jokers. A philosopher, a man obsessed, and a constant that predates everything. 3 tiers, 3 coherent explanations. Which means we're done here, right? We've solved him. Except we haven't, because the moment you try to force any single Joker into just one of these boxes, something strange happens. He starts slipping into all 3 at once. So we've built 3 airtight cases, except the 2 most acclaimed portrayals of this character in the last 20 years don't pick a lane. They occupy all 3 at once, and that refusal isn't a flaw in the writing. It's the actual point. Start with Heath Ledger. Watch The Dark Knight closely, and you'll find every tier fighting for space inside the same performance. One of the biggest myths about Ledger's Joker is that he's an agent of chaos, making it all up as he goes. But look closer. He predicts everything. The mob's reactions, Lau's extraction, Harvey Dent's personality, Gordon's methods, Batman's refusal to kill, the police response, the entire fairy experiment. Those results require extraordinary foresight. He's arguably one of the most strategic characters in the film. So when he asks Batman, "Do I really look like a guy with a plan?" he's lying. Or more precisely, he's mocking the idea that planning belongs only to institutions like the police or the mob. His actions prove meticulous planning, even as his words deny it. That's tier 1. Then there's the moment he tells Batman directly,
No, you complete me. You're garbage.
a spoken, explicit claim that his own existence depends on his rivals. The exact one-sided dynamic tier 2 spent an entire section describing. Every interaction becomes a philosophical experiment. Can Batman be corrupted? Can Gotham abandon its principles? Can Harvey Dent fall? He isn't simply trying to beat Batman. He's trying to invalidate Batman's entire worldview. That's tier 2. And there's no clear origin for this Joker, even when people go looking for one.
DNA, dental, clothing is custom, no labels. Nothing in his pockets but knives.
They come up with nothing because he never gives a straight answer. Batman's first instinct is to assume the man wants him dead, but that's not the point. The point is fun, and there's no fun in a dead Batman. Even in the comics, the Joker once ran into a kid who kept insisting he'd kill him. The Joker's response?
Kid, I'm the Joker. I don't just randomly kill people. I kill people when it's funny. What would conceivably be funny about killing you?
Except it turns out killing random citizens is funny to this guy plenty of the time. No origin, no consistent reason, no bottom defined. That's tier 3. So he's got all 3 tiers locked down. Logical, obsessed, and a brute fact, all in the same character, all at once. Then there's the Joker from the Arkham games, who takes Ledger's exact argument and pushes it somewhere Ledger never quite goes, a real body count.
Kidnapping, torture, extortion, racketeering, fraud, grave robbing, unlicensed dentistry, counterfeiting, bullying, cyberbullying.
Same core thesis, one bad day can break anyone. Except here, it isn't tested on nameless strangers aboard a boat. It's tested on Jason Todd, beaten and broken in a warehouse. It's tested on Edward Burke, manipulated into a spiral that ends with his daughter dead and his own suicide. The abstraction Ledger relies on is gone. This version shows you exactly what the experiment costs in names and faces, not hypotheticals. And yet, underneath all of that cruelty, this isn't a man who needs Batman to feel like he matters. It's closer to recognition between equals. 2 people who both had one terrible day and built an entire life out of the wreckage, just in opposite directions. He doesn't need Batman to complete an empty identity. He already has a full, coherent worldview of his own. What Batman offers isn't completion, it's company. The only other person who understands exactly what it costs to become total. The Arkham Joker is best understood not simply as an agent of chaos, but as a man who's turned existence itself into a game. Unlike villains driven by revenge, power, or wealth, his actions are governed by a twisted form of play, where every murder is a punchline, every hostage is a game piece, and every encounter with Batman is another round in an endless match. His chaos is never random. It's carefully orchestrated to maximize amusement, irony, and psychological impact. He plans with extraordinary precision, but his plans are designed to entertain himself, not just to succeed. And above all, Batman is the only opponent worthy of playing against.
It's like meeting someone I can actually relate to. Which, believe me, dear, I've never felt before.
His obsession was never rooted in a desire to eliminate Batman. It's rooted in preserving the one relationship that gives his games any meaning at all. That's what actually separates Arkham Joker from Ledger's Joker. Ledger wants to prove something. Arkham Joker wants to play something. He still carries philosophical ideas underneath it all, but they come out through games instead of arguments, which is why, for this version, the game itself often matters more than the prize. Which brings us back to the question this whole video opened with, and to a very different, very current version of it. So, should the Joker be logical, or should he be batshit crazy? That was the question this video opened with. By now, you already know the honest answer. Wrong question. He's logical, he's obsessed. He's a constant that needed neither of those things to begin with. And the 2 versions everyone agrees are the best. Don't pick one. They refuse to, on purpose. That refusal isn't a gap in the writing, it's the character working exactly as intended. Which makes the timing of this video less of a coincidence than it looks. James Gunn's DCU is currently deciding from scratch which version of this character to build, And based on everything we've just walked through, there isn't a correct answer sitting there waiting to be picked. There's only a choice about what kind of story Gotham is going to tell. Pick Tier 1, and you get a Joker whose horror comes from being right about something. A story about how thin civilization's rules really are. Pick Tier 2, and you get a story about obsession, about what it costs to be the only person someone else has left. Pick Tier 3, and you get something closer to horror than crime fiction. A chaos with no bottom, no reason, nothing for Batman to ever fully solve. Or, and this is the harder, more expensive choice, you build a Joker who does what Ledger and the Arkham games both did, one who slips out of whichever box the audience thinks they've found him in. That's not an easier character to write. It might be the only honest one. So here's the real question, and it's yours, not mine. If you were writing the next Joker, knowing everything you just heard, which one would you choose? Drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious which tier you think deserves to survive.